So this chapter opens up with Maki going to the Zhoniin clan, and this is picking up from chapter 146, where everyone pretty much decided what they were going to do from that point on. And at that time, Maki had said, I will return to the Zhoniin clan and collect cursed tools, and that's exactly what she's doing here. But when she gets there, she meets Naoya. Then Naoya just further harasses her in a manner that we pretty much expected. And it's also revealed that he bullied Maki in her youth, so more points for Naoya here. And as the sequence comes to an end, Naoya's like, so what now? Are you gonna follow Kotsu and Megumi like some lapdog? Say something, scum. And we just see Maki not responding to him. I like how this sequence resolves because Naoya ultimately just wants a response from Maki here. Like, I'm sure we've met people like Naoya in our lives that are just really mean, jaded people who basically just insult you to get a reaction. And Maki not giving him one is the best thing that she could do here. So as she goes deeper into the Zhoniin clan, she's encountered by this woman who says, Maki, come back here. Have you forgotten we may not enter the cursed warehouse? Then we see Maki like swinging these keys around, and she says the head clan says it's all right. And that's of course because Fushiguro is now the head of the Zhoniin clan according to the will that was read back in chapter 138. And after this, we're actually getting a flashback to when Fushiguro found this out himself. And Maki said to him at that time, now Bito said he'd leave the entire Zhoniin fortune to you, Megumi. That means money and cursed tools, and you'll receive information about the big three families and Jujutsu headquarters. The way we operate from now on is going to drastically change. Then Megumi tries to like pass it on to Maki, saying like, hey, you be the leader. But Maki's like, there's no way that would work. Look at me and just who I am inherently anyway. And she's like, you've inherited the family curse technique and learned a domain, and Gojo favors you, so it all stacks up to you being good enough. Barely. Then Fushiguro says, but stuff like acceptance, what the people of the Zhoniin clan think, doesn't matter, does it? You'll get all those benefits you mentioned just by becoming clan head. And then Maki says, I'm still not good enough. I can't create a place where Mai would feel like she belongs. And then that instantly gets through to Megumi, and he's like, understood. So this is a pretty big reveal about Maki here, and it's that she truly does care about Mai, which, was implied for the most part up until this point. It's just that the sisters haven't really had too much development up until now, but definitely enough for us to see that there's not like a complete hatred between them. It's just, it's complicated, I guess, because it was also revealed that Mai is large in part the way that she is because of the way that Maki is. And ultimately it just boils down to their upbringing in the Zhoniin clan, being females, first of all, but second of all, not being blessed the way that the Zhoniin clan wants. So then we come back to Maki walking away from the woman in the white kimono, and she screams saying, I said, come back here. Why are you always like this? For once, make me glad that I gave birth to you, Maki. So this is a Maki mom reveal right here. And this could be interpreted a few ways, I suppose. So maybe the mom isn't as bad as the rest of the Zhoniin clan, because there could be two reasons she's trying to stop Maki here. First, because she's just simply obeying orders, or two, she doesn't want her to go into the armory because Ogi is there waiting to kill her. But anyway, on to that, because Maki opens the lock and Ogi is in there. But not only is Ogi in there, Mai is also in there as well, but she's injured. And of course, at the hands of Ogi, who, let me remind you, is their father. So he says, there are no cursed tools here, Maki. I anticipated what you all would do and emptied it. Then we cut over to Naoya and Junichi talking, and Naoya says, you should have told me about this. And Junichi says, you're too reckless, Naoya. That's why Fushiguro is the better choice. A good number are backing him for this chance to repair relationships with the Gojo clan. But we too cannot accept leaving the entire fortune to Megumi. And Naoya's like, then why are you dragging your feet? And Junichi says, getting rid of him without a reason will only hurt the Zhoniin clan's standing. Then we would fall behind in the shifting power struggle that's come about ever since Gojo got sealed. And then we get a rereading of one of the things mentioned at the end of chapter 137 by the Jujutsu higher-ups, with Gojo being deemed an accomplice in the Shibuya incident, and he's permanently exiled, and if you try to unseal him, then it's considered a criminal act. And Junichi's like, we have to take advantage of this. We must execute Fushiguro, Maki, and Mai as rebels plotting to free Satoru Gojo. So this is pretty smart, because I guess they're actually not lying this time. They are actively trying to unseal Gojo, which at the same time, at least according to the Jujutsu higher-ups, is a criminal act. And Naoya said killing one's own daughter would boost credibility. And Junichi says, yes, even better, it would also strengthen the trust Jujutsu headquarters has in him. And Naoya says, but is that all right with Uncle Ogi, and Junichi said it was his idea. So then we come to Maki facing off against Ogi, and Ogi immediately goes into Secret Art Falling Blossom Emotion. And we've seen this before because now Bito used it against Dagon. It's kind of like an analog to Simple Domain, as to where like Simple Domain nullifies the instant hit of a domain, Falling Blossom Emotion kind of like coats you in cursed energy and forces like a counterattack to the guaranteed hit rather than just nullifying it. However, if you're like a sword user and you use this technique, then it also covers the sword and I guess aids that in having like an instant counterattack to anything that comes in contact with it. He's basically doing this because he doesn't know what Maki is currently capable of, because he knows that she's going to have some kind of crazy cursed tool with her and he won't know what's going on with it. So this is his way of counteracting pretty much anything that Maki can do, while also setting him up for like a one-turn kill, I guess. But anyway, speaking of the cursed tool, Maki does in fact have one with her, and the narration says that it's Juzo Kamiya's masterpiece, the cursed tool known as Dragon Bone. So this is also a callback to chapter 146, because after Maki says that she's going to go to the Zhoniin clan and collect cursed tools, she also asks Master Tengen about Juzo Kamiya's workshop. And in this sequence, I guess it's implied that he just gives her access to that place. So I guess she successfully visited that place in between then and now and picked up the Dragon Bone there. And also its effect is that it accumulates force and cursed energy and ejects them out of the back of the blade in accordance with the user's will. So I guess that just means it creates like a stronger swing for the user, or at least that's the way that it seems to be used in this chapter. So then Maki says, I'll take advantage of the fact that he's unfamiliar with the cursed tool's ability and feign entering a single strike duel while intending to strike a second or third time. So then we go into this awesome sequence where they clash swords, but Maki comes around and uses the effect of Dragon Bone, having the force come out of the back of it to make it a stronger swing, and she breaks Ogi's sword doing this. And she tries to come around behind him with the coup de grace, but Ogi is just too fast for her, and even with his broken sword, he still cuts her in the stomach. And then it's revealed that like he has like, I guess, cursed energy coming off of his sword. So he has access to some technique that allows him to like replicate a blade using cursed energy. And in the final panel of the chapter, Maki like drops to her knees, and Ogi reveals that he couldn't become the head of the Zhoniin family because his children are worthless. So yeah, things are definitely getting interesting in the Maki and Zhoniin storyline side of things. Not really sure what's going to happen after this point because everybody has kind of went their separate ways. So I'm not sure who can come here to save Maki and Mai, which makes me think that they're probably going to have to resolve this on their own. And I certainly hope that neither of them die in the process. I don't think Maki's going to die, but it's possible that Mai might. But let me know what you think about this chapter in the comments, guys. If you liked the review, please give it a like, and please subscribe if you haven't already. Have a great day, and I'll see you in the next. So picking up at the end of the previous chapter, Ogi had defeated Maki, and now he's dragging both Maki and Mai to like this room filled with cursed spirits. And he says, believing you had broken my blade, you stepped in close. That's why you're no good. I'm not a swordsman, I'm a sorcerer. You cannot judge me by the standards of one who is worthless. That would be absurd. And he's saying this because despite Maki breaking his sword in an exchange in the previous chapter, he was still able to get her with the element of surprise and deliver a near lethal blow to her using what I guess is his curse technique, because at that time I thought maybe it was just like cursed energy coming off of his sword, like replicating a blade or something. In a way it is, but it turns out that I guess Ogi's curse technique is like fire manipulation or something, which could be similar to Sukuna's alleged curse technique, or one of his techniques, and we'll get into that later once we go into the whole sequence with that. But like I said, he's saying this because he was able to use that technique to defeat Maki without her realizing what was going to happen. Then Ogi further says, as I said, I did not become the previous family head because of you two. My older brother's curse technique doesn't have much of a history, so his technique was not as important factor in the dispute. As a sorcerer, I have only been inferior to him in one aspect, and that is the quality of my children. So I guess Ogi is implying that he's stronger than Naobito and could have been the head of the Zhoniin clan if not for having Maki and Mai, who are considered rejects by the Zhoniin clan, as were Naobito had Naoya, who straight up inherited his curse technique and is still pretty powerful and also a male. So then he throws Maki and Mai into that room I was talking about, filled with like cursed spirits like grade 2 and lower. And he says this room is for training and discipline. For now they are keeping back for fear of me, but soon they will emerge and eat you both. Heavenly restriction, physically gifted, what of those things? In order to fight the sorcerers, train every day and further reinforce our flesh with cursed energy. Maki, your strength is nothing nothing special compared to others. Farewell, you are a stain on my life. So Ogi straight up disrespecting heavenly restriction. And once we go further into this chapter, I guess we'll understand why he has beef, pretty much because of Toji, I suppose. So after Ogi leaves, Mai is able to get to her knees and she's holding Maki. And she says, I suspected this would happen someday. And what she's doing here appears to be like mouth-to-mouth resuscitation or something, mixed with some jujutsu in there. Because I guess she's resuscitating Maki, but also like sending her to like a mental domain place. And we see them both on this beach, and she says, you probably already understand my curse technique. I can make anything big or complicated. Then she says, I'm heavily injured from his cuts, so once I make this, I'll die. And then Mai says, I knew a long time ago why twins are inauspicious for sorcerers. To gain something, you must offer something. I'm not talking about a binding vow. In the same way suffering makes us stronger, for us twins that rule doesn't always apply. After all, curse techniques treat identical twins as one individual. Get it? You are me and I am you. Even if you work insanely hard because you want to get strong, there's no point because I don't want to get stronger. And if you don't have a curse technique, but I do, then there's no point. And as long as I'm around, you, Maki, will never fully develop. Then she hands her like this reed and she says, I'll leave only this. Throw the rest away. I'll take the cursed energy and everything with me. But promise me one thing, destroy everything. So here we go, more things up for interpretation. So the reed that she's handing her is clearly symbolic, but I guess it could mean a few things. As you'll see in this sequence, there was like geese or something, and we'll see them at the end of the chapter as well. So it could be construed that the geese have something to do with these reeds in their migratory practices or something, but also at the same time, that might not be a thing, and that could lead to the title of the chapter, Perfect Preparation. And that title could either be a pro for Maki here, or it could be a con for Ogi. You could just read these tweets from Zanzo because they try to make sense of it. But aside from that, how I'm taking this is that Maki and Mai both cannot achieve the peak of their power as long as they both exist. Because apparently curse techniques treat identical twins as one individual. And I guess it just goes the same for heavenly restriction and cursed energy and all the jujutsu stuff in general. So now that Mai is gone, I guess this means that Maki has now come to her full power, or just her full potential of heavenly restriction, because Mai's saying, I'll take the cursed energy and everything with me. So now that that is gone, I guess it's fully buffed or brought out the full potential of Maki's heavenly restriction. I guess essentially she is on the level of Toji right now, or close to it, or just at least had what Toji had, like his exact heavenly restriction tier or levels or whatever. But anyway, they come back to the present and Maki wakes up, and unfortunately Mai is now dead at this point, but we see that she constructed her this sword, which also looks extremely similar to one of the swords that we saw Toji using when he was going against Gojo. But while this is happening, all of the grade 2 and lower curses in that room start to come after Maki. Then Ogi senses something's going on in the room, and he turns around and he sees Maki emerging from it. And he says, the cursed spirits are gone. How? My body remembers, but I tried so hard to forget this fear. And then from Ogi's perspective, it appears that he is seeing Toji in Maki. So like I was saying, Mai dying has unleashed the full potential of Maki here, bringing her heavenly restriction to, I guess, the same level that Toji had. And Ogi's able to sense this, and it apparently reminds him of Toji, which I guess also is implying that Toji used to beat Ogi down, which is why Ogi has a beef with heavenly restriction, like what I was talking about earlier, why he was talking crap on Maki in that sequence. Another thing to take note of is that Maki doesn't have her glasses anymore, yet she's still able to defeat all of the curses in that room. Going back to Toji, we know that he had honed all of his senses to the point of where he could just interact with curses despite having no cursed energy. So I guess that's another thing noting that Maki has evolved, you know, to the Toji level, I guess. So we're probably not going to see her using her glasses anymore, and she's also probably going to have like the same sense buff that Toji had. Then Ogi does technique release, Blazing Courage, and we see like this massive fire cursed energy blade come off of his sword and start surrounding him. And like I said earlier, I guess this is what his cursed technique is, where it's just like fire manipulation or something. And that's interesting because, like I also said, it's similar to what we saw Sukuna doing, at least when he went against Jogo. He was creating like a fire bow and arrow. Then Ogi's like, let us fight, my worthless child, and Maki's just walking him down holding her new sword, and in an incredible sequence she cuts the top of Ogi's head off and he's done. done. Fight over. And in the final panel, Maki says, Mai, let's get started. And then as for Mai saying, let's get started, I guess that goes back to Mai in the dream world saying, you know, destroy everything. And I guess that pretty much means like destroy the Zhoniin clan or just tear it down and maybe build it back up again. But either way, she has certainly started with taking out Ogi, who was one of the top members. So what happens after this point? Unsure exactly. I mean, obviously Maki is saying, let's get started. You know, I'm assuming going after the Zhoniin clan. So does this mean that she's immediately going after Naoya and Junichi after this? Maybe that would be a little too soon for her to just wrap up the whole Zhoniin clan storyline at this point. Or she just does, and she just goes on this like spree of taking out all of the heads. And then I guess by force she becomes the new leader because, you know, there's no way that Fushiguro is always going to be the leader, or at least I assume he's not. But yeah, that's pretty much it for the review today, guys. Let me know what you think about this chapter in the comments. And if you liked the video, guys, please give it a like and please subscribe if you haven't already. Have a great day. I'll see you. So it starts off with Junichi and Naoya hearing the alarm bell. And this new character, Ranta, comes in and says, Master Junichi, Maki has gone mad. She cut down Master Ogi. The Kukuro unit has gone to confront her. So now everybody's aware of what happened in the previous chapter with Maki like taking off Ogi's scalp. And all of the Zenins are like panicking and they start getting like their units together. And we're introduced to this Kukuro unit, which was just mentioned. And we're finding out that it's comprised of Zenin males who do not possess curse technique. As a lower branch of the Hei, its members undergo grueling martial arts training day and night. Maki was a member until she entered Jujutsu High. So that's pretty cool. More insight into Maki, and this makes sense considering that she was like farther ahead than a lot of people when we first got introduced to her in volume 0, and also a big reason why she was able to help Okotu the way that she was with like weapon training and all that stuff. But we're also seeing the captain of the Kukuru unit here by the name of Nobuaki, and he's like, but don't kill her, I'll finish her off. And we see like the Kukuru unit like going to where Maki is, and they start surrounding her, and they're like, visual confirmation of 2 identified curse tools. So it's confirming that she's a Kimbo curse tools right now. You know, she has the dragon bone and she has the new thing that Mai just created for her. And then after this, we go into a straight homage to Kill Bill. And if you haven't seen Kill Bill, after you watch this video, just go to the search bar and type like Kill Bill Crazy 88 fight scene. You won't regret it. But then Maki starts remembering like encounters with Naoya and what happened with Mai, and then the final thing that she said to her, but promise me destroy everything, and then that just triggers Maki, and she just goes into rampage mode, unhinged slaughter that I don't think we've ever seen of this degree in the series so far. Like, it is straight brutality from this point on, and it's super satisfying to see this. Like, Maki just taking limbs and heads and just an amazing sequence. And I'm sure I'm not the only one who thought, wow, I cannot wait to see this in the anime, because this is certainly going to be one of the highlights of season 3, maybe? But yeah, these Kukuru unit guys are clearly no match for Maki, who has achieved a whole new level of power coming off of the previous chapter. Like, after Mai died, it essentially unlocked the full potential of Maki's heavenly restriction, and it's implied that she is currently on the same level of Toji, I guess. So yeah, it makes sense to me, because I'm sure this is what it would look like if Toji were to go against the Kukuru unit himself. So then the Captain Nobuaki guy comes in and he's like, hey, how'd it go? And then he looks down and just sees a complete massacre with just Maki standing there uninjured. Then out of nowhere, we see this other Zenin member by the name of Chojuro, and he activates his curse technique, where like these huge hands like manifest and start to go after Maki. This reminds me of like Full Metal Alchemist fused with like Naruto. And this is going to be a recurring theme in the chapter here. We're going to see all of the Hei members use their curse techniques, but we're not going to get exposition or an explanation as to what they are. It's just visual storytelling here, and it's left up for interpretation for exactly what they are doing. And I'm totally on board with this. I actually really like it sometimes when things like this happen. Not all the time, of course. A majority of things do need an explanation, but I think sometimes it's nice to just sprinkle in sequences like this where we just kind of see things happen and we could just kind of interpret it for ourselves, such as the case with the Hei curse techniques in this chapter. But yeah, apparently this guy Chojiro's curse technique, he could just, I don't know, manipulate his environment or something, something and then make huge hands. But anyway, speaking of the Hay, we're getting introduced to them here, and apparently it's a 4-member group, or at least we're only seeing the 4 members in this chapter. And it says that they're a group comprised of people who have been recognized as possessing skills of semi-grade 1 or higher according to the criteria of Jujutsu High. They are the strongest sorcerers in the Zhoniin clan. And then we see the guy Ranta from the beginning. We see that guy Chojuro with the hand curse technique. And then Junichi, a character we were introduced to back in chapter 138 with the rest of the head of the Zenins. And then at the end of the chapter, it's going to be revealed that Naoya is the head of the Hay. So then we're continuing the fight with Maki, and we see that she's like busting out of those giant cursed hands that Chojuro sent after her. And she's simultaneously squaring off against Nobuaki and Chojuro here. But obviously she's just way too much for them and like slits both of their throats instantly. Then suddenly we see like these 2 giant eyes appear behind her and she's like constricted by them. Then we see Ranta like holding his hands up and Junichi's like, hold her still, Ranta. So this is Ranta's curse technique, and like I said, with the rest of the Hay members, it's for interpretation exactly what is going on here. So I guess he has some kind of curse technique that requires him to like look at somebody, and then I guess he could like just stop them from moving, or maybe just full-blown manipulate their body or something. But it seems like it specifically requires him to have his eyes on them, kind of like Aizawa from My Hero. But also the giant eyes that like appear are linked to his eyes or something, because as Maki's like fighting back from being controlled by him, she's like hitting the giant eyes, but it's also like affecting his actual eyes. But also let me point out that in this sequence, you're seeing that the art here is extremely rough. Now, in my opinion, I think that this is just a rough draft that Gege was pretty much forced to turn in because he ran out of time, possibly. He also had a cover page to work on for this chapter, so maybe that possibly cut into his working time for this. It's really not that big of a deal to me because, you know, mangakas are overworked anyway and they have crappy schedules. So if he had to turn this in, it's like, whatever, I'm not mad at it. It got the point across. I understand what's going on in this sequence. And I'm sure there's some people that are watching this that are like, actually, it represents the chaotic nature of this sequence and how unhinged Maki is. So the art is really rough. But anyway, like I was saying, she like attacks those eyes and it like is affecting Ranta's actual eyes. And he's like, don't mind me, Master Junichi. The current Zhoniin clan exists because of Master Toji's whim. You must have noticed Maki has become the same as him. So is that implying that Toji was like just didn't care enough to kill the Zhoniin clan, and that they're aware that he could have taken them all out if he wanted to, but also further establishing that she's pretty much on the level of Toji and everybody knows it. So then we come to Junichi, who I guess is activating his curse technique where he's like making it rain gigantic fists. And this is pretty awesome. It looks like one of the more powerful curse techniques in the series, actually. But anyway, this still has no effect on Maki, not even close. I mean, it looks like it's affecting her a little bit, but it turns out no. And we see like the craters that are left in the ground from Junichi's attack. We just see Maki walking up with Junichi's head in her hand. Then we're coming to the ending of the chapter here, and Naoya's there, and Naoya's like, how cruel, don't you have a human heart? And this is where it says that Naoya is the head of the Hay, and Maki's like, no, it was taken from me. So this is super exciting. What's going to happen now? Well, I mean, I doubt that she's just going to instantly take out Naoya. Not because of a lack of power or anything, just because I think it might be a little too soon for Naoya to bite the dust. It seems like he was built up for more than him to just be like a pillar of revenge for Maki. I mean, his time will come for sure, but I just don't think it's right now. And also, he seems pretty confident, especially after she literally soloed the entire Zhoniin clan. So I'm assuming that he has to have some kind of trump card or something that's allow him to have the upper hand on Maki. Or in the next chapter, you know, he's killed on the first page. But yeah, let me know what you think about this chapter in the comments. Pretty amazing, and I really enjoyed this one. But let me know, and if you liked the video, guys, please give it a like and please subscribe if you haven't already. Have a great day. I'll see you in the next one. So let's say he activates projection sorcery and then he decides to run in a straight line. And in running in the straight line, he takes 24 steps. That means it will happen in 1 second. But on the other hand, if he takes like, let's say, so this chapter starts with a flashback narration of young Naoya. And then suddenly he's standing in front of Toji. This is an awesome panel because first of all, Toji, but also like the perspective that Geji has drawn it is very imposing, and it tries to make you feel the way that like child Naoya did at that time. And it's further establishing that Naoya has like a lot of respect for Toji. Up until this point, it was pretty much implied that Naoya had always felt that way, especially after this whole first sequence wraps up and he's like, "You are not Toji." And this has also been another recurring thing in the last couple chapters, like after Mai had died and basically unlocked like the full heavenly restriction power that Maki has. It more or less put her on the same level that Toji was on. And we see like most of the Zenin clan seeing that this transformation has happened in Maki, and they're all kind of like contemplating it in their own ways. But on to the fight here. In this opening sequence, we see like Maki doing like some kind of like Shaw Brothers type defense to Naoya's attacks. And we see her counting like 3, 4, 5, 9, 10, 11. This is because Maki's trying to figure out exactly what Naoya is doing. And that's because of his curse technique projection sorcery, which I'll get into. But he eventually grabs Maki and she turns into one of the frames that is produced by the projection sorcery technique. And then he like kicks her while she's frozen in the frame and like sends her flying. And this triggers the next part of the fight sequence, which looks great. To me, this looks like Gege is like pretty much setting up the Sakuga sequence that this is going to become in the anime. Almost as if Gege is like giving them paint by number instructions, like, hey, this is what the sequence is going to look like whether you want it or not. Because obviously we know the animation studios take some liberties with like the way that they'll produce the fight scenes, and it won't necessarily be like a one-for-one recreation of what was on the manga's page. But with this sequence, you can see that like Gege is specifically saying like, hey, I want it to look like this. And as the spoilers indicated, Naoya is dominating Maki in the opening here. And it's completely understandable because she is pretty much fatigued coming into this and heavily damaged. On top of her not fully understanding what Naoya's curse technique is and like the incredible speed that comes with it. So it makes sense to me why Naoya was coming into this fight pretty confident at the end of the previous chapter, because obviously he saw everyone get completely dominated by her. I thought maybe he had some kind of trick up his sleeve, or he was going to use Maki's mom, or just some kind of trickery, but no, he was just pretty confident in his own abilities, which is definitely in character for him. And as this fight goes on, we're seeing more and more of Naoya's insecurities, because he's saying like, you are not Toji, it's not you, the one who stands with them, Gojo and Toji, going back to Naoya having like respect or just looking up to Toji because he was such a Chad. And Gojo, I'm sure to a lesser extent, but he just represents like the highest tier of power in the Jujutsu world. So totally understandable that like a crazy narcissist like him would want to equate himself to them as well. But then we go more into projection sorcery, and it says, it does not allow movement in ways that egregiously ignore the law of physics and trajectories. Furthermore, there is an upper limit to the body's acceleration at the time of activating the curse technique. However, maintaining the curse technique allows speed to continually build. So the first line, I guess, is establishing that like he can't just do anything he wants while activating projection sorcery. And I know it's funny to say that like you can't egregiously ignore the laws of physics and trajectories when we are in a battle manga after all, and they are pretty much doing that in this chapter. But I guess it's just saying that like, you know, there is a limit to what he can physically do despite being like a superhero manga character. And then I guess the second part is that like if he keeps activating projection sorcery like back to back, then he can build on top of the speed that was established by beforehand. But as projection sorcery as a whole, I explained it in my spoilers video on Wednesday, so I'm just going to replay that now because I think I did an okay job. So it divides 1 second into 24 frames of animation, using the user's field of view as the projection angle of view. The user can trace a predetermined set of movements into those 24 frames and execute them in that single second. Moving using this technique makes the user appear to move unnaturally fast, too quick for even special grade cursed spirits to follow. And while it's active, if he touches you, you now also have to abide by the 24 frame per second rule, meaning that you have to do like what is predetermined. And if you don't, then you become frozen in like a literal frame of animation, as we've seen it happen to Dagon and Choso. And then you're basically just vulnerable for 1 second. And that 1 second is a lot considering how incredibly fast they are and how fast the technique makes them. At least how I see this is that when Naoya activates projection sorcery, he basically has to decide beforehand what 24 movements he wants to do. So let's say he activates projection sorcery and then he decides to run in a straight line. And in running in the straight line, he takes 24 steps. That means it will happen in 1 second. But on the other hand, if he takes like, let's say 23 steps and then waves his hand or something, then it will break the rules of the technique and he will become frozen like in the frame himself. That's why like if he touches you while it's active, you are breaking the rules by not going through the predetermined set of movements and you become frozen in like the frame. So he's kind of like forcing you to break the rules in a way. So at this point now he is like, I'll punch through her at top speed, because at this point I guess he's been stacking projection sorcery and has been going faster and faster every time he uses it. And as he's coming at Maki, she gets into like a sumo stance and it says Shiranoi Gata. Then we get another narration saying, in exchange for Mai's life, Maki had gained a body of steel that broke away from cursed energy, but she suffered injuries and lost blood fighting Ogi, and then fought against the Hei, so she knew she was at a disadvantage in a protracted fight against Naoya, who had already surpassed subsonic speed. So then he comes at her and slaps her on the arm, attempting to like send her back into the frame. But it's too late, because it appears at this point Maki has figured out what's going on with projection sorcery. And she counters Naoya and she's like 24 times, right? You and Naobito aren't just fast, something felt strange. You make 24 movements per second. With this body, I can finally see that. Now he's about to say imposter again, but before he could finish, he just gets leveled in the face by Maki. And he is down, like KO'd, and she says, sorry, say that again, would you? So now he's getting his comeuppance here yet again, but way more satisfying because this is like, you know, straight up a fight-ending blow from Maki. So this is very satisfying, and I'm sure a lot of us wanted to see this, but also there's quite a few Naoya simps out there, so maybe you're not too pleased with this, at least all of you unanimously. But that raises the question, is like Naoya dead? I'm assuming not. I mean, it doesn't seem like he's dead. And before this, it was like explicitly shown that when Maki killed someone, they were definitely dead. So I guess Naoya is going to live here, and it works for me because he's a great villain, and you know, we need more villains in the series right now. And I think he's just been established a little too much for him to be taken out so soon, and I do think that he's still going to go after Megumi or just try to become the head of the Zenin clan or what's left of it at this point. And also there's potential for him to like be forcefully put into the Culling game or something, or maybe for him to eventually become like a disciple of Kenjaku. But that's pretty much it for the video today, guys. Let me know what you think about this chapter in the comments. If you liked it, please give it a like, and please subscribe if you haven't already. Have a great day. I'll see you in the next one. So picking up from the end of the previous chapter where Maki had defeated Naoya in a pretty good fight, we see Maki re-encountering her mother, who I think we haven't seen since chapter 148, and she's like walking towards her in the kitchen, and the mother is like, you know, backed up against a stove or something, and she's saying, no, stay back, why are you here? But then at the same time, Maki's saying, mother, please listen to me. Back then, why did you tell me to come back? This goes back to what I was talking about, how we saw her in chapter 148, and that's because after Maki got the key to the warehouse, before she's able to get into it, she had encountered her mother, and her mom at the time was like, Maki, you know, come back here. Have you forgotten we may not enter the cursed warehouse? And then Maki keeps walking, and then like her mom yells saying like, I said come back here. For once, make me glad that I gave birth to you, Maki. So this is what Maki's talking about, and I'm assuming she's questioning like her intention. Why exactly did you say that? Was it because you didn't want me to go into the warehouse because you knew Ogi was in there waiting to kill me and you didn't want that to happen? Or did you have another intention? Like, what's going on? And it appears that the mother doesn't even remember what she's talking about or something, or maybe she doesn't want to admit that she was caring about Maki or something. And I guess that's part of the theme of this chapter, or one of the many themes, I guess you could say. And it's there's a lot of things that are up for interpretation in this chapter, I suppose. And I'll get more into that, but then we see Maki like walking her down, and she's pretty much gone silent at this point after getting like a non-answer from her mom. And then her mom's like, no, don't, stop. And we see like this panel of like blood splatter on the wall. Then we're cutting to outside, and we see Naoya like crawling on the ground, and he's saying, that girl couldn't even finish me off, like thinking that he's gonna get away here. Then we see Maki's mom, who appears to be like bleeding from the throat, holding like a kitchen knife. And Naoya is aware of this, and he's like, you know, give me a break. I can't use my cursed energy, I guess because he's so injured here. And then Maki's mom stabs him in the back. And then we go to what her final thought is, and I guess it's a memory of her with Maki and Mai as kids, like in a field or something. And she's saying, I'm so glad I gave birth to you. So let's try to make some sense of what's going on here. So the last exchange between Maki and her mom, what exactly happened there? Did Maki do that to her mom? And I'm not really sure. I mean, I guess she did, because the blood splatter in that panel looks as if, you know, she was slashed or something. But it also goes back to what I was saying about, you know, up for interpretation. Maybe Maki didn't slash her, and maybe the mother did it to herself, possibly. Hence why we see her like walking all, you know, crazily towards Naoya, bleeding, holding the kitchen knife. It's very possible that that was the kitchen knife that she like maybe used on herself, because we've clearly seen that the mother is a very conflicted character coming up until this point. And given how, you know, everything has transpired over these past couple chapters, she's at her breaking point. She's finally snapped, and she sees no way of going forward, and she just decided to, you know, off herself, and with her last, you know, breath, she took out Naoya as well. Or it was just Maki who just, you know, slashed her because she didn't get the answer that she wanted, and she deemed that her mom was, you know, just as bad as the rest of the clan. Especially since the majority of this started with Mai's death, and we can assume that their mother, you know, helped with Mai's death, or helped with, you know, Ogi getting Mai. But regardless, it was just throughout their entire lives, she was associated with the Zhoniin clan, and she allowed things to be the way that they are, even up until her death. So it's possible that Maki just deemed her as guilty as the rest, and Maki's like, you know, I've taken out nearly everyone, so I might as well just finish the job. I just want to touch on Naoya right now. So this sequence is either really important or it just doesn't matter, and that's because I'm not really sure the logistics of her mom killing Naoya here. I'm pretty sure it's stated that, like, if you don't kill a Jujutsu sorcerer with Jujutsu, there's a good chance that they can become a vengeful spirit. And like I said, I'm not really sure what's going on here. Like, is Maki's mom killing Naoya with Jujutsu here? Like, is she using cursed energy with that stab, or is she using some kind of kitchen knife cursed tool? It's not really made clear. So I guess there's a chance that this means that Naoya could come back as a curse or something. I'm not saying it's guaranteed, but I'm just saying it's a possibility. And also another thing is that we don't really know where Gege's mind is right now, but it's possible that Gege kind of just wanted to wrap up the sequence, and he wasn't really concerned with the logistics or the specifics of it. And some of you might, you know, staunchly disagree with that, and that's fine. I honestly have no way to know for sure. I'm just throwing out some options, but I will also say that mangakas are not perfect authors, and they make mistakes all the time, and they're not afraid to admit it either. But anyway, coming to the ending sequence of the chapter, we see Maki holding Mai, and she's eventually meeting up with Momo. And Momo's like, you know, that's why I told you not to go. And then she gives Mai's body to Momo. And Maki says, she's in your hands now. And Momo says, you know, what are you going to do now, Maki? And she's just silent, and she walks away. And then we come to the final panel, which is a narration here, saying those from the Zhoniin clan who were absent that day would soon die violent deaths. 6 members of the Hei and 21 members of the Kukuru unit. So yeah, this is straight up confirming that Maki's rampage did not stop here. Like, she continued it, and she essentially scrubbed the Zhoniin clan from existence here, and it also shows that there were more members of the Hei, like the elite members of the Zhoniin clan, and there was, you know, some Kukuru unit members left too. No residuals were found where they died, but trace amounts of cursed energy thought to originate from a cursed tool weapon were detected in the body's wounds. So I guess this is implying that not everybody knows that it was Maki that, you know, caused this massacre, and I guess that's going to raise the stakes going, you know, further into the series here. There's going to be that whole thing out there where it's like, is Jujutsu Society going to figure out that Maki did this? Or maybe it's not just even Jujutsu Society, but just even, like, you know, people that are close to her. Maybe not everyone is going to know that Maki did this at first. I mean, this is a pretty serious thing that Maki has done, and I'm not really sure how the rest of the cast is going to react to it. Days later, the Gojo clan and Kamo clan proposed removing the Zhoniin clan from the big 3 families, but Jujutsu headquarters is keeping their verdict on hold. So this is pretty interesting. It says the Gojo clan, and pretty sure it was said that the Gojo clan is just Gojo, like Satoru Gojo. So I guess this means that there are definitely other members of the Gojo clan. And the fact that Jujutsu headquarters is keeping their verdict on hold, I guess it's because they want to investigate exactly what happened here, which goes back to what I was talking about with the stakes and, you know, everyone figuring out what Maki had done. And then just to finish this off, I wanted to just go into the morality of what Maki is doing here and the impact on the rest of the series. I think this too is also up for interpretation for the reader. Like, Maki's actions can be seen as justifiable and also unjustifiable at the same time. You can say that there was a good reason why she massacred everyone, but you can also say at the same time that this was, you know, a personal revenge mission for her. And this is almost an unredeemable act for her, and she's like a full-blown, like, bad guy or villain or even evil just for doing this. And maybe she's become a character that you're not even necessarily supposed to root for anymore. And I honestly like this turn that Maki has had. I mean, I like the power up and everything, of course, but I also like the gray character that she's become as a result of this. But yeah, that's pretty much it for the video today, guys. Let me know what you think about this one. If you liked the video, please give it a like and please subscribe if you haven't already. Have a great day. I'll see you in the next one.